So welcome back guys to We Talk Boxing. And in this video I'm going to be talking about Jaron Ennis and his latest performance on the weekend against Eimantas Stanionis. Now, for those that haven't watched the fight, I suggest go and watch the fight. Obviously it was a very good display and performance from Jaron Ennis. It was only 6 rounds, so it won't take that long. If you just can't be asked to watch the full 6 rounds, then I suggest going to watch the highlights as well. The highlights will show you how what I'd probably say one-sided and dominant his performance was. But yeah, Jaron Ennis, where should I start? He is now the unified welterweight champion in unifying the WBA and IBF along with the Ring magazine belt as well. So he is pretty much now guaranteed the main man in the division. Most people considered him to be the main man prior to this fight anyway, but now having two of the four belts and the Ring magazine belt, yeah, what more can people pretty much say really? Now the fight itself, Jaron Ennis, obviously it was a very comprehensive and dominant performance from the get-go. The judges would have had Jaron Ennis winning the fight. I didn't give a round to Eimantas Stanionis, and he in the end retired on his stool. It was a bit of a bizarre retirement from my point of view because he finished the fifth round on his feet. Was it the sixth round? I can't remember. He finished the round on his feet, went back to his corner, and then the corner team pretty much pulled him out. I could understand why they pulled him out because he was getting a beating, but it's a world title unification bout. Surely you want to go out being knocked out or go out at the end, sort of thing. But so a little bit bizarre, but not what I didn't expect. And the reason why I expected a Jaron Ennis win, and I potentially deep down thought he was going to do it at the back end of the fight, a little bit later, maybe around 8, maybe 10, give or take. But he done it a lot earlier in round 6, was because Stanionis only had, you know what I mean, one fight since a 2 year, was it a 2 year break, give or take, and it was against a nobody veteran, old school, old boy fighter, someone with a poor record as well. So realistically, if you're going up, if you're fighting someone like that, then you're going to be fighting against the best in the division. There's too much. Yeah, there's just for me, there's too much of a gap. You need to be having a few more competitive, tough fights before you're getting in with the best in the division. That's just my opinion. Now, yeah, even though it was a dominant performance from Jaron Ennis, he did get caught a few times, but it's boxing. It's 12 rounds. You're going to get caught with punches, but it was Stanionis' left hook, which was at times troubling Jaron. Nothing significant, but it was a shot which was quite comprehensive to see that it was a good shot for Stanionis because he kept throwing it every now and again and he was catching him. And I think even in the fifth round, before Jaron Ennis absolutely punished Stanionis, Stanionis started well and he was letting his hands go and he looked as if he had Jaron Ennis in trouble. But you know what I mean, the back end of that round, probably say from a minute and a half onwards, was all Ennis, and he was catching him with every shot in the book. And his movement, the speed, the agility just looked brilliant to see. I think one thing that played a big factor in this fight was that there was no £10 re-weighing on the day before, on the day of the fight, which obviously helped Jaron Ennis because that allowed him to rehydrate. To pretty much near enough what he would probably walk around with on the street. So obviously he must have felt good, felt big, felt fit, and not having to felt as if he was kind of drained 12 hours before the fight, sort of thing. So yeah, I think that played a massive thing in his favour. He now has the ring, he now has the WBA, and he now has his currently his own IBF belt. So I think the world's his oyster because after dismantling someone like Stanionis like that, there's only two more belt holders in the division. One of them is Brian Norman Jr. with the WBO, and the other is Marius Barrios. Sorry, with the WBC. So depending on who he could try and entice into the ring next out of these two, will determine if, like, whether or not he could try and claim all the belts. And now that he doesn't have to go through that £10 deficit on fight night because it's a unification bout, I can't see these guys troubling him because he just looked too quick, too slick, too sharp for Stanionis, and I considered Stanionis the next best in the division. So I think that Jaron Ennis should go on to hopefully undisputed. He should be able to capture all the titles before moving up to 154. Now, if he does move up to 154 beforehand, it's probably going to be for more money, or maybe a title shot in the next weight, or maybe that big blockbuster with him and Terence Crawford. They're the only reasons why, really, because he's got everything in his tools to clear up all these 4 belts and have all of them before moving up. And surely, as a fighter, if you know you're in a good position to do that, surely you want to do that before moving up. But another thing before I leave, I think this was, for me, the best welterweight fight that I've watched in a long time. I think prior to this fight, I think the only one that brings back memories, there's a couple actually, even though it was old school, Khan and Brook. Obviously, both guys were past their best at this point, and I don't think it was bang on 147, but they both were 147 fighters, if you know what I'm trying to say, throughout their career. So I consider them to be welterweights. But the fight that, the next best fight that I could remember was Spence versus Crawford. And it's been a long time since we've had a very, very good competitive fight. Even though Stanionis didn't probably leave it all in the ring. He didn't go down easily. He gave as much as he could. He tried to trade as much as he could before
Jaron Ennis versus
he was stopped, and it was the skill difference. What was the difference on the night, and it was the distance as well. I do feel that if Jaron Ennis would have stood there and tried to stand toe to toe for the 6 rounds, it would have been a different fight, and probably, who knows who could have been knocked down, because both guys do carry power. And Stanionis was catching him with some big left hooks before, obviously, the fight was ended. So if he stood there and tried to trade, it would have been a different fight. But Jaron used his brain, used his experience, and kept him at bay. But these are my thoughts. Let me know your thoughts in the comments below. How did you see this? Was you quite happy with the performance from Jaron Ennis? Was you disappointed with the performance from Stanionis? And what next for both guys? Are you like me? Would you like to see Ennis clear up all the belts and become undisputed, or do you reckon he should just maybe move up? And what about Stanionis? Do you think he could come back and try and rebuild after a defeat like this? As always, guys, please let me know your thoughts in the comments below. Bless.